What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new, I'm Christian. I'm a junior in high school in my top 40. I'm a class of 2022 in the state of Texas. Before we start this video, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and follow me on the gram at Christian Weddington. So in this video, I was talking about what it's like playing on the Nike EYBL Circuit. I was able to play EYBL last year with pro skills out of Dallas, Texas. So I'll be explaining how I was picked and able to try out for a Nike EYBL team, what the practices and workouts are like, and what it's like traveling and playing on the circuit. Alright, so if you guys are OGs, you kind of already heard this story before, but when I was in the 8th grade, I played against Prestonwood, which is one of the best private school teams in the state of Texas, and they had 5-star Keontae George, 4-star Noah Shelby, and 4-star Trey White on their team, and I went out for 50 points. That game was crazy. Like, I never would have thought any scouts or people who do rankings would have been at that game, and one of the coaches from Pro Skills was randomly at that game and saw me go out for 50 points, and afterwards he reached out to my middle school coach and got me invited to a private tryout for the 15U EYBL team. It was like a huge blessing getting invited to that workout, just because when you play EYBL, you're able to take the best players from the states that touch your state. So my team that I was playing for was based out of Texas, so they could take the best players from Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. And usually for those workouts, they only have about 20 to 40 players who they think they're going to be able to pick for that team. And I wasn't like a big name player. I was in middle school at the time, so like the fact that I was in middle school and I was chosen out of like all these people who were like big name players to get invited to that workout was just a huge honor. I honestly was a little nervous just because I knew going to that workout I was going to be the only person in middle school who was there. I was probably going to be undersized, wasn't going to be like as strong as other guys who were there. But I went into that workout, killed it, did really well, and got picked to play on the 15 EYBL team while I was still in middle school. So because I was in middle school at the time, I cared more about like becoming a better basketball player and playing against the top players in my grade and showing what I could do rather than playing EYBL as an 8th grader, not really getting a lot of playing time. So I ended up playing on the top team for Nike Pro Skills when I was in 8th grade, traveled across the country for a lot of really big tournaments, played against a lot of really big name players. When I tell you our team was nice, like we had myself, Artera Morris, Memphis Commit. We honestly looked like a high school team because we had 4 guys over 6'3" while we were still in middle school. Like, that honestly is unheard of. We would scrimmage other high school teams that played on the Adidas Gauntlet and played EYBL and still beat them. Like, honestly, we could have been the EYBL team for 15s even though we were still in middle school, but they didn't want to do that. I ended up playing really well during that 8th grade summer of AAU. I got ranked 16th in my class of 2022 in the state of Texas on Prep Hoops. I got invited to John Lucas League Invitational, EYBL All-Star Game, and Pangos, which are 3 really big camps for high school and middle school. I also ended up making varsity as a freshman. I ended up playing really well as a freshman on varsity and was picked to be newcomer of the year for my district and second team all district as a freshman on varsity playing with seniors. My coaches from Pro Skills were able to watch me play a couple times during my high school season, and from that they invited me to some workouts. So during my freshman year, they kind of changed out the trial process. Previously, they would just pick like the top 20 to 40 players and invite them to a private workout they were able to like hear about or watch play in person. They ended up changing it to where they just put a flyer out on social media and anyone could just pay $25 and they would be able to go to the workout and try out for the EYBL team for 15s, 16s, and 17s. So the new method that they put in place, I kind of like better because it gives more people an opportunity to like try out and have a chance of making the team. The only downside is you have so many kids trying out to the point where it's like you don't have as like much time to get like evaluated because there's so many kids there. For example, usually they would have about 40 kids try out like for each EYBL team, but during my freshman year, they had 200 kids try out for one team. Like 200 kids came, paid, and tried out for the 15U EYBL team. They're only gonna take about 10 to 12 players, and there's 200 kids there trying to like hopefully make the team. I kind of felt bad because a lot of kids didn't really know like how it works. They didn't understand like if you go to those tryouts, you have to be a dog, like you have to be selfless, you have to really show what you can do. They might say, oh, we don't want to see you go one-on-one, we don't want to see you do this and this, but like all they really care about is seeing if you can score and playing a little bit of defense. So a lot of the kids who had played on like top AAU teams previously went to like all-American camps, they kind of understood how it worked, and they would be really selfish, and kids didn't understand that. They would try to like pass the ball, be really selfless, and because of that they didn't really like get the same opportunities. When you have 200 kids shot for a team, you don't have that much time on the floor and as much time to get evaluated, so you have to really be quick with showing what you can do. To anybody who's trying out for an AAU team or even like a EYBL team, send film in advance to the coaches. Like most teams have websites and they'll have like the coaches' names or phone numbers or emails. Send them film because at these tryouts, there's like a lot of kids trying out, and the coaches don't have a lot of time to really like talk with the players and really evaluate you. So if you send them film in advance, they kind of already know how you play, and it just gives you a little bit more of an advantage in comparison to everyone else at those tryouts. Alright, so most teams on the Nike circuit, they don't practice that much because they have guys who live out of state, so it's kind of hard trying to get everybody to meet one gym and be able to work out on a consistent basis. But my team was a little different. They took pride in having this practice. So what we did was, because we had guys in like Arkansas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma, we would only practice on the weekends. We'd have a 2-day on Saturday, so we would do in the morning from about 10 to 12, do an hour of conditioning, then do an hour of like positions with guards, bigs, and wings, and get some shots up. Then we get a little 2-hour break. Then do the same workout like 2 hours later, hour conditioning, but then we would do 5-on-5 versus like the 16U or 17U team. Then on Sunday we get up, do a like thorough workout, a little more conditioning, then just like work on going over plays, getting off the floor. I think the hardest part was the fact that we would scrimmage the 17U EYBL team. And if you see the 17U team in comparison to a 15U team, like it's not the same. Like we would be out there having to guard Micah Peavy, KK Robinson, and Montreal Pena. Like it was crazy. We would run our defensive sets perfectly. We would be communicating, be in the right spots, cut them off, and they would still score. Like the only fun part about scrimmaging 17U was if we were on offense and we scored, they get like this super hard punishment. We would always try so hard on offense to score, so we knew if we scored they had to run. But so playing on the EYBL circuit was crazy. It's an experience like no other. The whole point of it is to be able to win enough games to get invited to PSHAM. PSHAM is literally like the mecca of playing EYBL. That's where like every single college coach in the country is watching you play. If you play 17U, some of the games from PSHAM are shown on ESPN, which is crazy. So in order to play in PSHAM, you either have to win the whole EYBL session, which means you have to win 4 games, or you have to win, I think it's like 5 or 6 altogether from 2 sessions. If you're a 15U or 16U EYBL team, you get to play 2 out of the 3 sessions. So when I played last year, they had a session in Atlanta, a session in Indiana, and a session in Dallas. My team played in the Atlanta session and Dallas session just because we lived in Dallas and it was better for us just to stay local and play in the session that was at home rather than having to fly all the way out to Indianapolis. So the first session in Atlanta was a live preview, which meant college coaches could come watch us play in person. So we were really hyped because that was like the first time we could play in front of a lot of college coaches. We kind of got played because for some reason in Atlanta, what they did was they had 16U and 17U play at the Lake Point Sports Complex in Cartersville, Georgia, and then 15U played at some random high school that was pretty big in Atlanta. And if we were able to win 2 out of our 3 games, we got to play at the main sports complex in Georgia where all the college coaches were at, which kind of sucked because if you play on like a big name team like Strive for Greatness, Drive Nation, or even like Mac Urban Fire, they're always gonna have college coaches at their games. So if you played for like the team that I played for, Pro Skills, or even like John Lucas, what our teams didn't really have as many like big name players or already had offers going into like playing EYBL. So unless we played a big name team, we were not able to have a lot of college coaches come watch us play. Our first game we played against John Lucas, and what made that game really disappointing was the fact that, first off, when you play EYBL, you're supposed to have a shot clock, which makes you play faster. And because we were like in like one of the far gyms, they didn't give us a shot clock, so we were like, it basically felt like a normal AAU game. Then to add on to that, we had 0 college coaches come to our game. I remember we were all so impressed because they had all the chairs on both baselines under the basket, and not a single coach was there. But alright, so our next game, we finally played like a really big name team, which was Drive Nation. They had Jordan Walsh, Keontae George, Lee Dort, Noah Shelby, and Riley Griffin. We played like one of the main gyms at that high school, and we finally had a shot clock, which was really cool because like if you play with a shot clock, it makes the game a lot faster because you can't just hold the ball and run sets for no reason. You actually have to like really play fast. And on top of that, we had hella coaches at that game. We had Baylor, Texas Tech, Miami, Ohio State, and I believe Texas. That game was crazy. I remember I played pretty well that game. I had 10 points off the bench, and I started getting interest from Texas Tech after that game. They started sending me letters, which is the first time I ever got any letters was from them, so it was like a really big deal. And so after playing against Drive Nation, we played against Houston Hoops, and what made this game really frustrating was the fact that, first off, no college coaches came to that game. There was literally no coaches there, mainly because Houston Hoops basically took their 8th grade team and made their 8th grade team their 15U EYBL team. So like their 8th graders played up against a bunch of freshmen in high school. And on top of that, those 8th graders were dogs, ended up beating us and sending us home to Dallas. Like if we would have won that game, we would have went and got to play at the main like sports complex, Lake Point, in front of all these college coaches rather than playing at a high school in the middle of nowhere. And we messed around and lost to some 8th graders. So after the first session in Atlanta, my team and I came back to Dallas. We worked really hard for a couple weeks. We grinded out, fixed some things we needed to fix, and we ended up getting to host in Dallas. And we played in the Dallas session, which was not a live period, but there was like ballislife, slam, overtime. They're all filming our games, and I was only able to play in one game, which honestly was depressing because I got really sick. I had like strep throat, and I really couldn't breathe. I played in the first game, probably should have played in the first game, but I played in it. We played against Elford Payton's EYBL team called, I think it's like Payton Elite or something like that. And I had like 20 points. It was crazy. I remember I had like 2 dunks. I'll insert them like right here. One of them I cut off the baseline, and I bounce off of 1 foot, but like usually I'll just go off 2. I'm off of 1, and I dunked on 3 people at one time. It was crazy. And then after that, like none of them wanted to jump with me. So after that, I remember I hit him with like a crossover and like went up and like back scratched it. It was crazy. I remember I was so hyped because our next game we played against Team Why Not, and you guys don't know this, but I used to live in California, and almost everyone that I knew when I was younger now plays on Team Why Not. So it was like me getting to play against all my old friends. And Ballislife came to the game, they filmed it, and I knew I would have went off. And I got sick, and like I couldn't really breathe well. I couldn't eat any food, so like I couldn't play. It was so frustrating because I remember I got up that morning and I saw after the game like all the highlights. I was like, man, that could have been me. But you know, all things happen for a purpose. After that, my team ended up losing a couple of games. We didn't qualify for Peace Champs, so our season was basically over after that 3rd session in May. And because AAU really like it's just getting started in May, I wanted to play through the whole summer, so I ended up leaving Pro Skills after that session since our season was basically over, and went and played with Marcus Smart's AU team YGC 36 and played in the Adidas Gauntlet, which was a crazy experience. I played much better on the Gauntlet than I played on the EYBL Circuit. I was able to play in a couple tournaments that were on the Gauntlet, and also got to go to California for the Gauntlet finale. If you guys want me to do a video talking about like what it was like playing on the Adidas Gauntlet, then I will do that. 1,000 likes, I'll do a video talking about playing on the Adidas Gauntlet YG36. But I'm gonna end the video right here just because it's really long, and I appreciate all you guys who watched the video all the way through. If we can get this video to 8,000 likes, I will do a video on the playing on the Adidas Gauntlet and also do an EYBL Gear Haul. But it's your boy Christian signing out.